Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Ground to get real life topics from a biblical perspective. My name is Brian Boyd. Today's topic is elevation. And everyone, as always, I pray that you all have been well. And to be completely honest with you, I wasn't even supposed to release a video this week, which would explain why you're getting all of this on Thursday instead of Wednesday night, because God just had a plan. He really wanted me to talk about this topic, and who am I to refuse the Lord? So with that being said, we're going to be talking about elevation tonight. We're going to more specifically the process of what it takes you to do to elevate, to go to the next level in life, not just physically, but spiritually as well. And then on the opposite end, and more importantly, why that process happens. Why do you go through the things you have to go through in order to get to the next level? Because quite frankly, there are going to be situations you're going to be presented with in life that just don't make sense at the time, and you don't understand why those things are happening. But know that all of these things are necessary and that they are meant to prepare you for the next level. It's right there to position you to get the things that God has for you. With that being said, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. And to back this up tonight, we're going to be coming from John chapter 15. And with this is another famous parable of Jesus. And this time he's talking about the vineyard. And in this particular parable, he represents the vine. We all represent the branches as people, and God represents the husbandman, the one that picks the fruit, the one that maintains the vine itself. And in this, Jesus, in this small verse 2, Jesus is actually going to give us the solution on how to level up in life. And with that, let's jump into it. John 15 verse 2 reads that every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that bears fruit, he prunes that it may bring forth more fruit. And with that, we're going to be breaking down this verse into two sections. And the first of which is that every branch in me does not bear fruit, he takes away. And this is so small yet so profound, because biblically speaking, these are representing the people, the situations and experiences that say that they're for God, but they're really not. These are the things that claim to know God, but really don't. And they say that they're doing God's work, but he didn't give them the work that they're doing. And going into our lives, we will experience the same thing. There are going to be people, situations, experiences, and opportunities that appear to be for us, will work for us, and at the end of the day will be with us, but they will only hinder us from going to where we need to go from. Because those things are hindering us, they have to be cut off. And when I thought about this, it reminded me actually of Matthew 7:21 through 23, because it reads, and these are the words of Jesus himself, saying that not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, have done many wonders in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. And in this verse, we see Jesus do just that. He turned the people away because he knows they really wasn't for him. Even though they said they did all of these good things, even though they had prophesied in his name, even though they had brought people to him, Jesus did not know them himself. And those were the people that came with false intentions. Those are the people that were coming to hindering the progress and stuff that he's doing. And for us as people, in order to get to the next level, the first thing that we have to do is be able to identify these things that are in our lives, the things that appear to be good for us, the things that present themselves to us, and the things that we think are going to get us to that next level, the ones that are really, though, on the opposite end, are holding us back. And after identifying those things, we have to be willing to cut those things off, no matter how big they may seem, no matter how close they may be. And that can be anything. Once again, those could be experiences, those could be memories, those could be people, those could be situations or opportunities. But regardless of what it is, you have to be able to cut those things off if you want to go to the next level. And it's so much with that. It's so many experiences and stuff that I can tell you, but I'm just going to tell you tonight, without going too far into it, is that you have to be willing to do those things. And like I said, going back to it earlier before, that's not always the easiest thing to do, but it is necessary if you want to get to that next step. And that's actually going to segue me into the second point right here in the second part of this verse, because it reads that every branch that bears fruit he prunes that it may bring forth more fruit. And this more or less is the actual topic of the night as well, because we're talking about elevation, and the pruning process is actually a prerequisite for that elevation. And if you're not familiar with the concept of gardening, the pruning is used to ultimately help the branch, vine, tree, or whatever it is produce more fruit. And this can be done in two different ways. So in order to get things to grow on the vine, the first thing that you have to do is cut off the dead pieces, like we saw in the first step with him cutting off the dead branches or branches that weren't producing any fruit. And then there's also another extreme where if a branch is producing too much fruit, you have to be able to cut it off so the fruit can grow evenly throughout the rest of the tree. And going back to that very first point, God has to put you in a position to remove all of the things that have died in your life. These can be, once again, memories, experiences. These can be childhood issues. It could be heartbreak. It could be situations, or simply anything that's going to slow your walk with him or just hinder your progress in general, that will prevent you from going to where you need to go in life. And there are so many experiences that I can tell you once again, and I'll be the first to tell you that this isn't always a smooth process. And this is why I've always been such an advocate of therapy, because while we do have God to help us through our struggles, there are going to be some things that you just need to talk to other people about. And the therapist is the best person that can do that, because they have been educated in ways to help you deal with those issues that you're going through. And I can tell you, as a person that have gotten therapy, a lot of the progress that I have made as an individual came much faster than it would have if I would have tried to deal with those issues alone. So, if you're a believer out there, or if you're just someone in general that may need that help, go out there and do that. There is nothing wrong with you going out there to get a therapist, because you need help with those type of things. And to be honest with you get help for anything else. If you don't know how to fix a car, or you need help with your car, you take it to a mechanic. If you don't know what to do with your computer, you may go to a technician. And that's the same thing with a therapist. You may be in a situation where these are things that are going on in your life. You don't necessarily know how to deal with them. Go out there and reach a therapist, man, and talk to them, and they should be able to help you with those issues. But moving forward, on the opposite end, I did mention the topic of, overgrowing and God having to cut the branches off. And that's, while it is another stream, once again, it allows you to keep growing in other areas. And this is something that I've had to learn in life, because as people, we all have the tendency to focus and overwork, or place too much focus into something that's beneficial, to the point to where we eventually burn out, or it removes our attention from other areas of our lives that are important. And this is something that I've learned, because God will either put us in a situation where we're in that phase to where he wants us to rest. He'll let us know that we need to rest, or he may go and sit us down completely for us to rest. And in those times, take the opportunity to do so, because God wants you to do this for a reason. And that those times that they happened to me, I had got so caught up in life to where I got overwhelmed with everything. I couldn't go to the next level because I was so strained on the level that I was on. And God would literally sit me down so that I could regain control over my life and get to a point to where I could go to that next level. And that's what it represents with overgrowth. And this, like I said, once again, this isn't something that you have to be completely unproductive. These could be good things that you're doing in the community. You could be doing community work. You could be in organizations. You could have a major role or something in the church. But these things may more or less hinder you from doing the things that you're supposed to do if you place all of your focus into it. If you place all of your growth into it, just like trees do when they're growing fruit. And it's something, because my grandmother, like thinking back, she used to have this tangerine tree like in our yard. Those tangerines was nasty, by the way, but that's not the point. I would look up from time to time, and those tangerines would like fill up at the very top of the tree, at the top of the branches. and there would be no fruit throughout the rest of the tree because it was so focused on growing up there. And in order for us to get the tangerines to start growing throughout the smaller parts of the tree, we had to cut off the branches at the very top. And bringing that back here, once again, there are going to be some things in your life that you're going to have to let go of. You're going to have to cut off, even if they're productive, because ultimately, if you want to get to that next level, you need to be able to do that. And I mean, more or less, even going back to this, like the grounded itself is the living definition of that growing process. Because when I talked about this a few months ago, and I believe it was episode 11, Better Than the Rest, I had showed everyone pictures of, a park that God had led me to. And in that park, I saw like many scriptures. I saw words all related to it. And if you're watching this video, I'll actually include clips of these photos in the recording. But it was essentially God was telling me to rest at that particular point. And he gave me Psalms 23 and specifically. And when I broke it down on that episode with Carla, by the way, shout out to Miss Carla Michelle Media, we realized that that particular psalm was dealing with rest. It was dealing with peace. And at that particular point in my life, that was so profound because God had told me to let go of everything that was affecting me at that point. All of the organizations I was in, everything that I was doing outside of my particular job and grounded itself. And he told me to focus on that specifically. And a lot of the progress and stuff that I've made with grounded, all of the stuff that you see here today was a direct correlation of what God told me to do, to let that stuff grow and to focus, to cut areas of my life that I was placing too much focus in, even though they were good focuses, and to focus on the rest of the tree, to focus on my personal walk with him, to focus on my spiritual side, to focus on the family and all of the other things around me. And because I did those things, the fruit of my life, it dispersed all over the tree. You know what I mean? Like at this point, it's just amazing. Like thinking about that, just personal life, business life, spiritual life, everything is great right now. And that came from trimming that tree. And it did feel good at the time. I'm telling you, that's why I'm telling you, like the purpose of the night is understanding that these things are not always easy and you don't always understand it, because I went through it at the time. I went from a person that was working, all day, every day, more or less here or there, to somebody that had to completely rest. Like I wasn't doing anything outside of this podcast and working. And sometimes you have to go through that extreme once again, just cutting that branch off and allowing other areas of your life to grow. And because of that, I grew so much. I grew closer to God. I grew extremely close to God at that particular point. My knowledge of the Bible is completely changed. I see so much insight, and I look back at my older episodes and be like, man, what was I really talking about? Like, not that it wasn't right, but the understanding that I got of it now is just a completely different level. And that's something that you have to do in your life as well to solve that particular point up. There are going to be situations where you will have to cut things off of your life. You're going to have to withdraw your focus more or less on things. You won't be able to put as much energy as you put into that one thing in order to get the rest of your life to catch up with the progress that you're making. And everyone, that's more or less how you get to the next level. Like the first part of this, once again, if I could summarize this message, is to understand that some things in your life, you have to be able to cut those things away. You have to be able to identify the things that mean you no good, and then be willing to get rid of them no matter how important they may seem to you. And then on the second end, understanding that sometimes if you place your focus too much in the stuff in life, that you may have to get rid of those things as well in order for you to grow as a whole. And that may involve you taking time, away from those things that you're doing, even if they're productive, to focus on yourself, to focus on growing as a person, growing physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, and going to that next level, because that's the thing that's going to get you there. All right. Focusing, on yourself and growing as a person, that's going to lead you to the ultimate phase of elevation. Focusing on God, focusing on the things that he wants you to do, because that's what's matters at the end of the day in life, doing those small things. Because if you do those small things and you take care of the stuff that you're supposed to take care of, everything else will work out. But that's pretty much the end of this message, y'all. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Like I said, a little over the place, more or less, but y'all, this was a completely opposite episode. I just say it was unscripted, more or less, but I just really wanted to talk about this topic because elevation is something that's very serious, man, and it's something it's a constant process. And like I said, there are going to be times where you're going to go through stuff and you just truly don't understand, but those things are necessary for you to grow. But with that being said, everyone, I'm not going to hold you all no longer. I thank you all so much for watching this video. If you like what you see, please be sure to like and share across social media. If you're one of my amazing listeners, as always, I thank you all out there. Shout out to my listeners out there. Please be sure to download this episode and follow the Grounded Podcast as well. And y'all, just real quick, I forgot to announce this. The book 2 is actually available right now for purchase. So if you go to thegroundedpodcast.com/book, it'll take you directly to the Amazon link where you can go, and I will also post a link to the book in the description as well. And be sure to just let me know how that thing turned out. Write in the reviews if you would love to. I would love to get your feedback, and we'll just go from there. But in the meantime, everyone, I love you so much, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. My name is Brian Boyd. I'm signing off.